Hey, how's it going? I wanted to talk about closure, which is something that I really take for granted. And I think I did for a long time take for granted, or more so, I kind of ignored. And it's something that has kind of been the story of my life over the past couple months, especially, but I think also over the past couple years. And that could be putting like a nice ending on a relationship or an event, similar to like something that's maybe traumatic to you or something that you really just weren't comfortable with. And instead of just kind of leaving that open to mull in the back of your head without resolve or whatever. I think as a kid, I moved around a lot. I've lived all up and down the East Coast. I think you can name probably any state on the East Coast. There's a good chance I've lived there, even if it's just for a couple months. And I think because of that, I was just so used to just moving schools, making new friends, moving schools, making new friends, that I never really got an ending to so many relationships that I started early on. So because of that, I am pretty used to just cutting people off. Even now, it's something that I'm just so used to, and I kind of do all the time. And it is something that, in a lot of cases, I'm an advocate for. I think that I'm used to just like, you're not really doing me any good. You're maybe just only causing me harm. We could both go our separate ways. But I think there is also a very unhealthy aspect to that. I think personally, I get attached to people really easily, and I become really invested in friendships, for example. And that is really bad when you are also very used to cutting people off. You get really attached to somebody and you cut them off really quickly. I'm not going to use any sort of medical terms to define this. I'm not diagnosed with anything. These are just things that I've kind of noticed that I do. And, a lot of times it is just friendships. If it's not going how I want it to, or maybe it's kind of going off the rails a little bit, I'll kind of be the one to end it before they do, or before it ends badly. And I think a lot of the time, nowadays, I look back on that and I regret it. I don't think about it all the time, but I'll think about it randomly, and I'll kind of get like that flashbang to the brain, as I said before. It's just like a jump scare, almost. Whenever I'm like alone, driving the car, or I'm just at work, kind of doing something mind-numbing, I make up conversations in my head with people that maybe I don't talk to anymore. I'll kind of go over a conversation that we used to have, and I would continue it in my head, and maybe how it would have went. And it kind of bums me out. I bum myself out without even realizing it a lot of the time, just thinking about these people that aren't really in my life anymore. And I talk a lot about this kind of stuff in terms of relationships, just because, over the past couple of years, I've been struggling with friendships and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I use my reference to. But this, again, can be anything. I do also have a lot of things that maybe were traumatic for me, and those are very few, but there are things that have been traumatic for me that I just haven't really come to terms with, and kind of sit in the back of my mind and occasionally torment me, or make me feel like shit if I'm having a good day, for example. There are things that I have been able to get closure on. I mentioned relationships, and there are a lot of people that I've been able to reconnect with recently, especially people that I have had bad relationships with, and I've been able to kind of connect with them and say like, hey, what's going on, man? Like, how you doing? And a lot of times, I've gotten ghosted and stuff like that, but there have been so many times where it's gone really well. But there's also the traumatic things, or the maybe embarrassing situations, or something little like that that I think about, and I have had to kind of force myself to be uncomfortable with sitting there and thinking about these things, because if I don't, it'll just kind of keep being pushed off, and a lot of times it'll turn into something worse over and over again as time goes on. And I think there are some things that it's okay to leave in the past. There are things that, maybe that pain of bringing it up and resurfacing those memories or thoughts really is too much. And I apologize here for getting a little sad, but yeah, there are some things that in my life, if I kept thinking about them, I really don't know if I would stop being sad. Well, I think it is still really important to work on stuff like that. I understand that it can be really hard, but there are so many other things that I think I've pushed to the side. That I think if I would have just put up with the short-term, gut-wrenching feeling, I think I could have made so much more progress instead of kind of waiting and putting it off until it bubbles up and comes out forcefully, almost. But yeah, recently there have been a lot of things that I've been able to get closure on that I honestly didn't think I ever would. A lot of things I thought I would just forget, hoping I would just forget. There are times when I don't even know if you really have to think about it. I think that time does heal a lot of things, as maybe cliche and cringe as that may sound. There are a lot of things when it's not really worth thinking about it, and over time you'll kind of come to terms with it subconsciously, and you'll eventually just kind of forget about it. You have something in your life that maybe you think of like, I can't stop thinking about it. I can't push this to the side. But I think you're going to have that moment when you realize that one of those things you did stop thinking about, and you're like, whoa, I actually can move on from this, and it's not going to be this infinite burden maybe that I thought it was going to be. I remember I was sitting out with one of my friends, and he was someone that I've talked to about a lot of this stuff, and he's heard me ramble on a million times over and over again, kind of gone off about the same thing that's been bugging me. And I was telling him, you know, I don't feel that pit in my stomach. You know, usually I think about it or I hear something about it and I get like, I almost feel sick, you know, like when the car goes up a hill that you're not expecting. And I was telling him that it's almost surreal how I don't feel this pit in my stomach. Even in cases where things that I've been feeling like this for years, it's so surreal. Now I was sitting with him and I was like, I don't feel it anymore. And I was happy, but at the same time, I was almost weirded out. Like, I was almost like, am I okay? Like, what's going on? Yeah, it was just a weird thing. Oh, it's just something I've been thinking about recently. And I think that it's something that I will continue to work on for a very long time that I will probably not ever fully really get a grip on. But I think it's still something that I want to talk about. Thank you guys so much for watching. Support recently has been crazy, so I really appreciate it. I got Twitter in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, see you guys.